Okay, so good evening, everybody. I'm very excited to be on this platform with you all, and I count it a great privilege to have been invited to speak to all of you on a topic so important as the topic that we are all dealing with, the secret to a transformed life. I know that many people have clamored to have their lives transformed. Many see it as a matter of dreams. Some see it as a matter of action. Some see it as something very, very, very pertinent to their lives or important to their lives, depending on where yours is. I want to assure you that by the time we're done with today's talk, you would have something to go with that would not leave you the same way you were before you came in. And secondly, I want to really appreciate the hostess of this whole talk or program altogether, Miss Janet. I really want to say thank you for the invite to speak to everyone here. You're doing a great job, and I want to encourage you to continue to do more. And I want to notify everyone on this platform to learn from her because she is trying to solve a problem that only few of us choose to pay attention to. And to this extent, I want to say thank you. And it is on this note that I want to say welcome everyone once again. So, what are the secrets to a transformed life? My talk has been confined to four subheads. I'll give you clips or audio clips on each of the four texts and four topics. The first one is the relationship between mind and financial status. The relationship between mind and financial status. For me, I'd like to first of all say that there are so many things about our lives that we think about. There are so many things that happen to us. There are so many things we encounter. I may shock you by saying that many of those things are functions of our minds. Many of those things are functions of our mind. And one of the things I'd like to emphasize before I go on is I know all of us have our belief systems and our backgrounds. For me, a lot of what I'm going to be saying is inspired by one of the greatest and amazing books ever, and that is the Bible. I have lots of stories from it that have helped me. There are secrets that have produced the greatest of men in life. They have helped me, and I have seen many who have been produced from it. And I'm going to be shuttling between inspirations from that book and inspirations from other books I have read. So, what's the relationship between my mind and my financial status? What is the relationship between your mind and your financial status? So, the first question I'm asking you is, can you try to think? Is there a link between how I think and my financial experience, my financial position, my financial status in life? Is there a relationship? Now, to answer that question, I would like to start from the experiences we've often had and how people have the philosophies that guide how people think. I know that many of us and many people, maybe on this platform and elsewhere, usually think that the key to financial success is to dream of financial success. Just dream it. And you hear many motivational speakers telling us, okay, dream of this and this will happen to you. Just dream of finance and pursue it. Is there more to financial success and our financial status than just that? Yes. And I'm happy to announce to you that it is your mind. Why did I say it is your mind? First, let me say to you that everything that happens to us in this life, everything that we are, everything that will become is a reflection of our mind, is a function of our mind. Your mind is the center of everything. It is from your mind that your success is conceived. It is from your mind that your position is dreamt of. It is from your mind that whatever you set out to act on, whatever you get to harvest from life, begins. In other words, whatever we want to become, including financial success, depends on our minds. What I hope to become is a function of my mind. Okay, let me give you one of the writers that I said I believe in. So, a passage of the Bible says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so he is. As a man thinketh in his heart, so he is. Now, this sentence looks ordinary, but it has lots of interpretations. Let me take the verse in a reverse. He said, as a man thinketh in his heart, so he is. In other words, as you are is a reflection of as you think. Another way to put it, what you currently are is a reflection of as you think. Your current happiness, your current sadness, your current fears, your current anxiety is a reflection, an outcome of as you think. In other words, anybody can be currently happy if he thinks in terms of happiness. And anybody can be sad if what he's thinking is a creator of sadness. Now, I wouldn't want to speak too generally, but let me just begin to line down some of the points I want to use to justify what I've said. Now, since I've been asked to speak about the relationship between mind and financial status, let me say that your well being is dependent on your mind. I take that again. Your well being is dependent on your mind. What do I mean by mind? Your thoughts process, the way you think, your imaginations, your ideas, and everything. Your well being is dependent on your mind. And I want to say to you that your well being, for those of us, and I know many of us have studied mathematics in secondary school, in primary school, there's what we call superset, and there's what we call subset. Do you know superset means the body that contains the elements? A big one, like the umbrella where we put so many other colors. Now, your well being is a superset. The subsets under your well being can include academic well being, financial well being, relational well being, career well being, and to a large extent, too, marital well being. Anything that you think of as far as well being is concerned is a product of your mind. So, if we are saying that our well being is a function of our mind, it means even our financial well being is a function of our mind. You see, the mind is so powerful. That's why the Bible also talks about a passage that guard your heart with all diligence, for out of it comes the issues of life. Do you know that many times it is not just the circumstances that we experience that make us feel happy or sad, excited, anxious? No, it is our minds. Let me give you an example. Do you know that if you go out in the morning before you leave, you stand in front of your mirror or you pick up a book and you say, today I'm going to come back happy? It's as simple as that. Do you know you end up coming back happy? But you know, many times we don't tell our minds. We don't know how powerful our minds is. So we ignore our minds when we are living. We ignore our minds when we are going out. So something now happens, it shocks you. You come back, you are sad. Now, pick that example and use it for what is happening to you currently in life, in your relationship with people, in your finances. It says, guard your heart with all diligence. Out of it are the issues of life. Issues of life, everything about life proceeds from your mind. Now, there's this man by the name James Allen. Apart from the references in the book, the Bible I talked about, James Allen is one very powerful man who also has written a very powerful book. And he calls the book As a Man Thinketh. He picked that sentence and gave us beautiful, big interpretations. One of the things he says is, a man's experience is a sum total of how he thinks. As you think, so you are. You are poor, it's because you think poor. You are rich, it's because you think rich. You are subservient to other people. You are subordinate to every other person. It's how you think. Some of us come to a place on arrival, you just tell yourself, for me, I'm not the type that succeeds here. And that is what happens to you. Do you know that many students come into a university, for instance? I've seen this happen every year. And there are students who choose to say, I'll be the one who will graduate as the best in my class. And because that person is thinking that way, the person begins to act in that direction. Because that person thinks that way, the person begins to take actions in that direction. And then his experiences begin to change on account of those thinking processes. Now, it means that you cannot become what you are not thinking. You cannot experience what you have not thought about. You cannot have outcomes of what you have not allowed to flow on your mind. All right, let me just take a break and I'll drop the second audio. Okay, so I'd like to continue with the talk on the mindset, and I'll just give us a few points that I feel would change your lives and that you need to know. So, I've given a brief explanation of what the mind looks like, the fact that your well being is related to your mind. So, take note of all of the sentences I'm going to be giving you. This is a talk, and basically, it will revolve around principles. We can't give you all of the details of life in this whole talk, but we can give you principles. And I believe that for any of you who is very interested and serious about changing your life, then you would definitely have that transformation if you pay attention to what I say about your mind. So basically, the next things you're going to be hearing from me now are the truths about your mind, the things you need to understand about your mind. And the first thing I'm going to say at this point is that your mindset is the root, the center, the source of who you are and of what you become. I take that again. Your mindset is the root, the center, the source of what you become. All right. Now, what you do to your mind, therefore, determines what becomes of you. So, the mind is like a soil. You know, the soil is like just the plain ground. This is how I want you to say it. Imagine the mind as a soil. Any seed that falls on that soil, what happens to it? It grows. The job of the soil is to grow seeds. So, also, the job of your mind is to transform anything that comes into you into a life, into an experience. That's how important your mind is. So, everything true about the soil is true about your mind. All right, so apart from your mindset needing training, all right, this is what I want to say that you need to know. You see, I had said that you should see your mindset as a soil. Now I'm saying see your mindset as a raw material. Now, what is a raw material? A raw material is something that it's in its crude form that requires processing to become fully manufactured. In other words, the opposite of raw material is what? Fully manufactured. So if your mindset is a raw material, imagine what it needs. Training. It needs training, it needs grooming to become a better version of itself. But unfortunately, do you know there are many of us, including some adults, who have lived life throughout without ever knowing this? And what that means is their minds are just hanging as raw materials. And what has been happening to them are more of accidents. The good things that have happened to them, accidents. The bad things, accidents. Nothing has happened to them deliberately because the heart is supposed to condition your experience. Your journey in life is supposed to be directed, determined, and ordered by your mindset. In other words, you can predict what will happen to you if you know what your mindset is. You can predict what will happen to you tomorrow if you have a mindset that has been trained, if you have trained your mindset. Are we together? I hope we're getting me. Beautiful. So, your mind is a raw material. And by this, I'm saying that you need to be deliberate about your mind. How do we show deliberateness? By training it. And then, how do we train our minds? How do we train our minds? Or why should we train our minds? Let me begin with the question of why we should train our minds. We need to train our minds because we are directly or indirectly products of many influences, some negative, some positive. Let me take that again. We need to train our minds because we are products of many influences, some negative, some positive. One of the influences that we're a product of is our socialization. Do you know your socialization can be a very important source of your mind? The way you think currently is a reflection of your socialization. And by socialization, I mean your upbringing. Many of us, we're brought, okay, check out the children who do very well. For instance, do you know many children who do very well? It's because they come from backgrounds where parents encourage them. That's my boy. That's my boy. He does very well. He's the best in his school. And you remember how our parents used to talk to us. How many of us remember how our daddy and mommy used to talk to us when we were kids, teachers? Some of us are products of unfortunate motivations. I'm sorry to say that. I'm very, very sorry to say that. But do you know it's the truth? Like some of us are products of very positive, reinforcing upbringing. Some of us are outcomes or reflections of negative upbringing. And those upbringings have affected our minds negatively. They have cultured our minds to think of ourselves less than other people. They made us to become pessimists rather than optimists. The first thing we see in any situation is how that it is not possible, because when you were growing up, people told you, no, don't even try. It's not possible. You can't do this. You can't do that. Do you know you're a dullard? Now, I want you to begin to reflect. What were the things you heard when you were growing up? So, those are examples of influences. The second influence I want to talk about that shapes your mind and determines who you are your intakes. Your intakes. Anyone who knows me very well knows that I talk about intakes. And usually I talk about three things when I talk about intakes. Your text, the books you read, any writing is an intake. The writings you give yourself to, you give your mind to. The second is the audio you listen to, the things you hear. They shape what state of your mind is. They turn that raw material into whatever they hear. And the next is audio. What do you see? What do you see? What do you repeatedly see and watch? Whether in real life or in a recorded form that we call videos. All right, those are the three I usually talk about. But today, as I was preparing for this talk, one more came to my mind: your friends. Because you get things from your friends too. The ideas your friends believe in also shape your mind. They shape your mind. So I've answered the question: why are we products? Sorry, why do we need to train our minds if it is a raw material? We need to train our minds if it is a raw material because we all come from different influences. And if the influence that you come from is a negative one, it means you need to train your mind to begin to see positively. If it is a discouraging one, you need to train your mind to get yourself encouraged. Of course, there are many people that were written off in childhood, but today they are not what people said they were going to become. Some were told you never amount to anything in life, and now they are doing great. I know someone who was told that you can never publish any paper in your life. You're a dullard. And because of that, that person today has published over 30 something papers because of that word he heard. You know? Now, many of us have a right to either believe what our upbringing has told us or to disbelieve and change it. How do we change it or disbelieve it? By training our minds. If you don't train your mind, you'll continue to experience the same things you've been experiencing yesterday, including financial status. You are beginning to see now the link between your finances and your mindset. It is the same 2020 that happened to all of us, for instance, COVID-19. But do you know some people went bankrupt in 2020? Some became multi-millionaires in 2020. Why? Their mindsets. I am a lecturer, for instance. I remembered in 2020, in 2 months, because of the time I had during COVID 19, that my lectures never gave me in a normal session and in a normal year and in a normal time of the world. I started paying attention to my animals. One of the animals I paid attention to was my duck. Hausas call duck agwagwa. Yorubas call it pepeye. Igbos call it obogo. For those of you who don't understand it, I believe you should have had a picture of what I'm talking about. Now, what did I do to it? I decided to begin to ponder over them. What can I do differently? I had time. I began to create nests for my ducks. I began to tell myself, wait, if I have time for these things, they can lay more, they can do this more. Do you know I produced almost 60 ducklings in 2 months from my ducks because I changed method. I had time to attend to them. And of course, I know I'm a farmer. I looked at these things and it helped me. And you know, in 2 months, I gained 60,000 naira when people started booking for them. Just 2 months. And I'll tell you the rest of the story. If that can happen in COVID 19, a time that was supposed to be considered negative, what happened? My mind. If I didn't think of how I could use COVID 19 as an opportunity, do you know nothing good would have happened? I'll still be sitting waiting for school to resume. Now, many of you are sitting where you are right now, and you feel that until somebody does something for you, until somebody comes, shows up for you, your situation will not change. Start thinking from inside out, not from outside in. Your mindset needs to be trained. What happens to you is a function of what you subject your mind to, how you treat your mind, what comes into your mind, the intakes. So, for instance, do you know you can change your mind by the books you read from today, by the audios you listen to from today, by the pictures you see, by the videos you watch, by the gist you expose yourself to among your friends? Do you stay with pessimistic people, people who don't believe anything good can happen, and you are still tolerating them? Enough is enough. Today is the beginning of change. Let's train our minds.
Now, I'm
Our
inspired to
minds
add this
are
before I
raw
go on
material.
with training your mind. Now, it's important to also know in what areas you need to train your mind, not just the fact that you need to train your mind. Do you want to train your mind to begin to have positive emotion? You know, we have different personality types, and people usually say those personality types shape how we think. We have those who are called open people, they have openness. There are those who are conscientious, there are those who are extroverts, there are those who are agreeable, and then there are those who are called neurotics. If you want to get that easily, you have an acronym. It's called OCEAN. O for openness, C for consensus, E for extrovertishness, A for agreeableness, and N for neurotics. Now, many of the way we think is a reflection of our personality. That's what scientists have told us. But in telling us that, they forget to also tell us that we have a right to change how our minds work. If your personality comes with a kind of mindset, it doesn't mean that you are a puppet to it. That's what I always tell people. When I hear people, for instance, say, me, I have mood swings, so I'll ask, are you a baby of your mood, or your mood is a baby of you? Are you a puppet to your mood, or your mood is a puppet to you? You have a right to shape your mind. Now, if you have negative emotions and you notice you are the one who easily gets sensitive to what people say to you, watch yourself. That means your mind is vulnerable because you have not trained it. You are not intentional about it. You are not deliberate about it. Do you know it's not what people say that should shape who you are? If you have a good mindset, for instance, you don't need someone to tell you you are beautiful before you know you are beautiful. Some of us wait for people to tell us you are beautiful. No, you can do this before we do it. So you get so many motivational talks and nothing will change if you do not start by telling yourself, I can do this. I believe I can do this. That's what God has made you into. He has given you your mind as a very powerful tool to help you. And I realize I've not mentioned that God is the center of all things. Do you know that God gave this mind to us? We don't start with our minds, we start with God, the giver of this mind. And your mind, when you realize that it is God who created your mind and He has good plans for you, then you cannot think negative. You cannot be negative about it. You cannot be careless about it. So I'm saying, whatever your personality is, you are not a puppet to your mind. You have a right to shape your mind. And telling yourself every day how you want to feel, how you want to think, what experiences you want to have is something you need to learn to do. Many of us, it's not the easiest of lessons to learn, I must say. It takes training. It took me years to be able to tell myself that what people say will not begin to make me feel one way. Somebody tells you something and the person has gone to eat suya and you are busy dying. Can you imagine? It's because of how our minds work. And I've seen a lot of people who are very confident. Do you know such people are usually reflections of how they've chosen to train their minds? Some of them are fortunate outcomes of good upbringing, like I said early on. Some, they have chosen to take in right things, right materials, right text, right audios, right videos, right gist, right friends. And that's why they are what they are. But you also have a duty, because you're the one listening to this talk now, to train your mind, all right, if you're going to have a good outcome, including financial outcome. So the experiences you have,
The financial experiences or status you're going to experience is a reflection of what you feed your mind to. The positive truths about finance or the negative ones, or the cultural beliefs that people have said about it. Which ones do you currently take in? Watch your intakes. Watch your intakes. Watch what your upbringing gave you. Watch your intakes and watch what your upbringings gave you. It's time for self reflection. This talk is an opportunity for you to self reflect. Thank you.
Okay, now I have moved from your mindset is not just a process at work, it is also a raw material that must be trained. So I've talked about training your mind and the fact that your mindset is a raw material. Now, the next point I want to make is the fact that you should cultivate a right mindset. Cultivate a right mindset. I've told you the truth about the mindset. The mindset is soil, the mindset is raw material. What then is the right mindset? The right mindset to having financial well being. This is more specific to our talk now. The right mindset for having financial well being or to a financial well being is the mindset of self discovery. Is the mindset of self discovery. Your mind must be tailored to thinking in terms of self discovery, not in terms of finance. If you think finance before self discovery, you're going to end up in an accident. One of the accidents of thinking finance before thinking self discovery today is Yahoo Boys, kidnapping, robbers, scammers, swindlers, fraudsters, cyber fraudsters, and the rest of them. When you begin to think of financial well being first, before you think of any other thing, you want to invent all the shortcuts possible. But the only road to financial well being is self discovery. And what do I mean by self discovery? Your conscious ability to discover who you are born to be, what you are born to do in life. And this thing is tied around three letters. I call it TAG, tag. TAG, tag. I'll add one more later, but let me talk about tag. Tag is your talent, your ability, and your gift. I take that again. Tag your talent, your ability, your gift. Now, your financial well being is tied to your tag. Your financial well being is tied to your tag. I want you to ponder on that. Many of you are trying to find your financial well being and it's not working. That's because you are thinking of finance first before you think of self discovery. So, the right mindset to financial well being is self discovery before financial discovery or finance discovery. If you've discovered yourself, you can easily discover your finance. Check out all the people who are doing well today. They are few. That's why we usually troop around them, we celebrate them, we are their fans. You want to become the next Davido. But what did Davido do? He discovered his tag before he's now rich. Serena Williams, she's a celebrity today. Why? Not because she set out chasing money. She found her tag, her ability, her gift, her talent as a tennis player or badminton player. You talk about Messi today, they are celebrities of this life is because they found their tag. You talk about Aliko Dangote, is because he found his business entrepreneurial ability. Now, your financial status is directly proportionate to your self discovery status. I take that again. Your financial status is directly tied to your self discovery status. If you've not discovered yourself, you cannot discover your financial capability or your financial possibility or your financial